Hi everybody and welcome to Different Leaf, a show for new and experienced cannabis consumers. I'm Brit Smith. This episode, we're exploring how artificial intelligence is making it easier for more and more people to grow their own marijuana at home. It used to be for cannabis lovers with green thumbs that you'd have to go grow your pot plants in secret, either outdoors in dense forests where no one could find it, or in basements in blackout tents with energy-zapping lights and very noisy fans. But both methods take a lot of time, energy, dedication, and know-how. Thankfully, alongside America's rapidly spreading legalization laws, scientists have been coming up with new ways to grow weed in the comfort of our own homes using artificial intelligence. Today, we're going to go on the road to visit Carl Palme and the folks at Boundless Robotics, the Boston-based company behind a new machine called the Anabotto, an intelligent at-home cannabis-growing robot. In late 2021, Anabotto was crowned the winner of Boston University's 5th annual cannabis startup competition. It's an elegant but simple invention that looks just like a large plant pot with a lamp over the top of it, but inside it's full of smart technology that does all the hard work to grow hydroponic pot. The user simply adds water to a part of the robot once a week and then sits back and watches the plant flourish over the course of 3 months. There is literally no daily upkeep needed, no pH testing, no temperature tracking, all thanks to artificial intelligence and robotics. The Boundless Robotics team were kind enough to invite me and my production manager Jen into their offices so we could pick up our own Anabottos and try our hands at growing with artificial intelligence. First, we made our way into Boston to meet Carl Palme and to see where and how the Anabotto machines are being made. All right, just arrived in the Seaport District in Boston and paid way too much for parking so that we can go in and pick up our Anabotto cannabis-growing robots. So let's see what this is all about.
It's Jennifer and Brit. We're in the lobby.
All right, I'll be up. Give me 30 seconds.
You got it. Bye.
All right, bye.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, Brit.
Hi,
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm a huge fan, by the way.
Thank you so much.
I'm
I'm a huge
nervous.
fan of your work.
Oh, thank you.
Very excited to see your stuff.
Well, let's go.
Cool, let's do it.
But let me give you a tour real quick.
Yeah, that sounds
All right?
great.
So this is what the machine is eventually going to look like.
Just looks
It
like
is.
it fits nicely in your house.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. It comes with a shade that we make, but you can put your own shade. Because we recognize that while this is low and it looks pretty, this is going to be, at eyesight, and so we want to make sure that it fits your decor, but we're going to give you that option.
Oh, so this is the one that we're going to try. It's got like a gold bowl dome
Yes.
looking lamp,
Yes.
but it's going to be eventually where
We're
it's like
gonna
a
swap
three-legged
it.
lamp.
Yeah, we're going to swap it with this one, but the lamp technology, which is the important thing, and the camera comes with this. So
It just goes so well with house decor. It just looks like a house plant with a lamp over the top
Well,
of
we
it.
had an
It's
Italian
beautiful.
designer, former Italian engineer that I worked with. We're going to have a trellis. We're going to have a little net for curing. The device itself, this is all the air purifying happens up here. We have the legs where all the air is going to be circulating. So
Wait a
target
minute, the
is-
legs circulate air. The legs of the lamp circulate the air around the plant?
Yes.
That's bananas.
So this is how we manage odor. We invented this. So essentially what happens is there's a fan that sucks in the air and cleans it. And then we take that air and we blow it down the legs, and the legs have a particular hole pattern and angle that then creates a little tornado inside that creates a negative pressure system.
Oh my God.
So it contains the odor and it just kind of cleans it. But because it's a negative pressure system, also if you're like smoking next to it, it'll suck in that smoke and clean it.
I'm going to start smoking weed in my house more.
Right now, the way we're making the machines is by 3D printing them. So these are all our 3D printers.
So there are 10 3D printers that sort of line this office space in the basement. And they are all just working their way through building what looks like white sheets of plastic. I guess these are going to be the bottoms of
These are the backs. This is where the
backs.
electrical outlets go in the computer.
Ah, okay.
So it takes us about a week to print a machine.
Wow.
And and so this is the back panel. This is essentially the last bit. As you can see, lined across the wall, we have all the other components. We've been printing them in order of priority, but the cartridges, the backs, the lids, everything has been 3D printed. We are now transitioning from this to molded because it takes us about a week to make a machine now. When we go to molding, it'll take us like 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
yeah.
Definitely learning how to speed
Yes.
things up and,
Yeah.
and kind of get yourselves in a faster position here, because you're going to be selling out soon.
I hope so,
Right.
and I think so. I mean, the market is just so big, and I think everybody's been waiting for a solution like this where it's very hands-off, and so we are preparing for scale. And there's a lot of demand also from Europe now. We're getting, Germany legalized, and all of a sudden, like, everybody in Germany wants one of these. So,
Of course, yeah.
But it's a different market, and we have to design a product for that market.
So when you first started this and you did your very first prototype, did you do the 3D printing to get through that one?
Yes, so it was right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Actually, no, my very first prototype, I went to the dollar store and I bought a bunch of these wire racks.
Yeah.
And then I bought champagne stainless steel buckets. And that's how I did my first system. And I used what's called a Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you're familiar.
yeah.
It's like an
I've
inexpensive
seen.
computer.
Yep.
And I'll show you what the prototype looks like. And so we did that, and we started. It took us about 2 years to get it working. And then about the beginning of 2019, it just worked flawlessly. And that's when I bought my first 3D printer. And I started printing some of the components. But then COVID hit. And so I turned my living room into a manufacturing space. I bought the second 3D printer, and then that's when we built the first 10 machines. And then my wife kicked me out. She didn't kick me out, like, she just said, you can't do this anymore. We live in a tiny apartment in Boston. You just, like, we have kids. You can't do this.
There's a lot of stuff in the house, yeah.
Yeah, so we went over to my friend's basement who lived 2 blocks away. And, the ceiling was a little bit low, but it was dark. But, it may do for the next 6 months, and then we moved into this space, and it's been wonderful now. Because with a hardware product, you really want all the engineers to work around it. It's very hard to do remotely. It was just so complicated, where now we're just collaborating constantly, and we're just making so much more progress.
Much easier, but over the last 2 years, obviously, it's been kind of difficult to move this design forward.
Oh, it's been so hard, especially because, remember the Suez Canal, so a bunch of shipping got stuck. So a lot of the parts that we were waiting for were stuck. And then you had all the supply chain issues. So a lot of the electronics that we're making, all of a sudden you couldn't find chips for that. So we had to redesign the electronics. It's just been one issue after another. Now, I'm from Mexico, so I'm used to all sorts of supply chain disruptions, so we can deal with it. But it has been challenging. It has been somewhat unexpected. But now you can see all of our inventory. We're ready for the next 100 machines at least. And we are ready to go. The nice thing about this is we can do updates in the field. You just download the new software. The artificial intelligence will figure out what recipe works for you, and it will create a recipe for you. So we're going to try to make it as scalable and as easy to use as possible. The whole mantra here is that the customer should only have to change the water and harvest at the end. Everything else we're going to take care of through technology.
I love technology, Jen. This is incredible. I tried once when I was in college to build like a 6-7 foot tall wooden box. My then boyfriend, now husband, is a very handy man, so he managed to put this thing together. And he's about 6'3", so he was like, all right, as long as I can stand in it, a cannabis plant should be able to grow. And so he built this wooden box. We put fans in it, extractor fans in it. We had temperature monitors and humidifiers. And we did a hydroponic grow, and it was our first time. And we forgot chemicals for one day, and the thing died.
Yes.
And it was all this work, just to have a plant die on you within 24 hours. It was like so disheartening, and I was like, I'm never growing cannabis again, forget it. If I can't even do it with hydroponics, but it turns out hydroponics are actually a more difficult way of growing, and soil is a lot more forgiving. So for my next one, I moved on to a tent, which is a little more foolproof. Like, it has all of the fans and all the little gadgets that you need in it already. And I tried soil that time, and the weed came out okay, but I could not figure out the humidification. It was too moist in there, and I got a lot of mold on a couple of the plants, and then as soon as you get mold, it spreads like wildfire. Like, you can't get rid of that stuff. So I've lost a lot of time and energy just to try to grow at home and learn how to grow at home. So I'm excited, honestly, to just put water in, press a button, and then weed will grow.
Well, what's interesting about hydroponics is it is much more difficult to grow, but it is perfect for automation. And that's why we started it, right? I mean, we have all the sensors, we can maintain it, the computer is not going to forget. And I'll show you in a little bit. We'll go to my computer. We can actually see some of the data that we're collecting, and you'll be able to see the temperature, the humidity, how we're controlling it. We have a camera in the system, and that's what's looking at how the plant is growing. Because most of how you diagnose a plant issue is by looking at it.
Yeah.
So we're using a vision system to look at the plant, and then through it we can diagnose whether it has nutrient deficiencies, pH problems, all this other stuff, and then it'll automatically fix itself.
Whoa.
So that's yeah.
That's incredible.
Talking about our particular customer demographics, we talk to a lot of moms, we talk to a lot of veterans. Moms just don't have time for any of this. Right. And veterans don't want to start it because of the stress of keeping the plant alive, and that just, it activates some of the PTSD and things like that, and so that's why they'd rather not grow. And that's been our conversation. So if it was automated and it just worked, that would make it so much easier for people to grow at home.
Wow. So should we take a look at how this works?
Yeah. This is what goes inside of the machine. So as you can see, it's very simple. Obviously, we've simplified a lot of it through electronics and things like that. There's a lot of intelligence built in, but it's just plumbing, right? I mean, how do we take water from one place to the other? How do we add nutrients in a very particular way? The way we design these pumps and these electronics, we can actually microdose the water to the tune of 0.05 milliliters. So we have a lot of control over the water. And then we have obviously a bubbler for oxygen. So this really takes care of everything. This is the computer. It goes in here. These are the outlets.
Like the back panel.
Yeah. And so you see the Ethernet port, the USB ports, a connector, and then your outlets. These are all software controlled. So you can plug in a humidifier, and then the machine will turn it on and off. And so we turn a dumb humidifier into a smart humidifier now. Because as you know, as the plant gets bigger, you actually want less and less humidity.
Right.
And most people don't know that, but the machine knows it, and so it'll adjust for it.
So you just tell the machine, I have plugged a humidifier into socket whatever on the app.
Yeah, and as you're getting closer to harvesting, you actually can click on it, and it says, all right, you have like 2 weeks left or something, right? So if I click on my machine, for example, I have all of these outlets that I can control. And so I can specify, right, outlet 1 has the light, but outlet 4 has a humidifier, and outlet 3 has a fan.
Right.
It also gives me my water levels. So we talk to a lot of people who travel, and they're like, well, I'm going to be away for a week. How do I know if this is... But the app gives you all that information, right? And so you have that.
Oh, my God.
Also, for example, the humidity, right? So I can click on the humidity, and it shows me a graph, and you can see how well we're maintaining the humidity within that 35 to 55% humidity range.
It's pretty perfect.
That needs to be, and we can look at the history and all that other stuff. Same thing with temperature. I can click on my light, and I can schedule when the light is going to be on and off. We need it to be on for 18 hours. But you can specify when you want that. Mm-hmm. And when we have the odor management solution, you'll have a boost clean air option. So you can just press it, and it'll really do a good job of cleaning so that if you don't want your guests to smell anything. But you can also click on the plant, and you see a picture of it. And I can download this, I can share it with my friends, I can see a time lapse, and so I can click on this, and you can see this plant actually growing. So I'm going to accelerate this.
Oh my gosh, there's a video of it shot from above of the plant going through the months of growth.
Yes, and so we actually use all this data to feed into the artificial intelligence, but because we have it, we want to share it with you, and this is your plant, and you should be proud, right? And so I can download it, I can share it with my friends.
I'm gonna.
And the nice feature that we have here, as you can see, my Anabotto right now is in a kitchen, but we have customers who are interested in buying multiples of these, and so they name them. I hope you name yours. Mm-hmm. And people also name their plants because you get to see it from seedling to grow for 3 months, and so people become very attached, so they name them. It's been interesting to see the names that people give them. So like I said, I think one of the biggest surprises that we've seen is when people grow it in their living space. So for example, you can see this picture. I mean, this is right in the living room with other plants. You can see how glorious this plant is. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you have people who grow it inside of a closet or a basement, same exact everything, right? But the plant doesn't grow as well. I mean, it grows. You get your 2 ounces, but it's not as majestic.
Do you know what I think I'm going to do is sing to the thing every day. I'm going to sing to that plant.
Do it.
I think it was Prince Charles. He used to, one of the most shocking things my mother ever told me when we were young is, did you know that Prince Charles sings to his plants? And I was like, it's not crazy. I knew it would work. So I'm going to sing to it. I'm going to play it Mozart because that for sure changes things. What else could you do to help it grow better? Have it by a window. Does that matter?
I think it helps.
Yeah.
I think having it by a window helps because obviously sunshine is just, I think, better than artificial light. Although our light is, I think, as if it's really efficient and really good, but I think the sunshine helps.
And the whole thing about having other plants nearby, I think, is really they like almost sing to each other.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In their,
There's plant
their
energy.
plant
There's
language. And
definitely
energy.
going to be plants.
My dogs are going to be fascinated by this.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a Beagle Bulldog mix. She's a little crazy. She's just about to be 2. And I got a Black Lab Border Collie. He's blind and diabetic and old, and loves to just sniff around every little thing he can find because his nose is the only way he can find his way around. So he's going to love this as it grows.
Yeah.
He really liked to be around the tent when I had a tent in my basement. He
Because
loves the
that's
smell.
their stimulation. They love that olfactory stimulation.
He loved to sit in there with me when I was trimming the plant, you know. Yeah.
So we haven't had issues with dogs, but we've had issues with cats.
You got cats?
I do not.
Okay. All
Whose
right.
cat destroyed? What was
One
it?
of
Yams?
our
No.
customers, one of our customers, he has a cat that as soon as the plant sprouts and the customer shows affection to the plant, the cat.
But isn't that such a cat
That's
thing?
such
I mean,
a
that
cat
is
thing to do.
Yeah.
Do you watch it? It must be like a horror movie. Like,
Well, so we don't take video. We take a picture every 15 minutes, and it's for the AI exclusively. So we haven't been at that exact second where the cat is.
Oh man.
But you can see the little plant, and then you don't see it, right?
And the cat's skunky.
Yeah.
Cat's
So
happy in the
Cats do,
corner.
yeah.
oh, cats.
it's gonna be your machine. So you have 3 buckets, like I said. The fresh water bucket. You always want to keep this filled. This is what brings fresh water into the grow tank.
Is there anything specific we need to do to the water? Does it have to...
No
Tap
pH
water.
testing.
No pH testing, so we're using the artificial intelligence to kind of figure out, based on your zip code and things like that. So I'll ask you where you live to figure that out.
Hold on. Wait, based on my zip code, you
Well-
can figure out the water?
Yes.
There's a lot of data out there around.
That's so smart.
Yeah,
I would
how-
never have thought about that at all.
Then you have the pod. It comes with some medium, so you push the medium down as much as you can, and then you'll put your little seed in there. The reason we have to screw it in is we've gotten so good at growing these plants that they get so top heavy that they want to tip over. And so by screwing it in there, we're actually using the mass of the water to kind of lower the center of gravity and to hold it in place. But you can see this is going to go nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So
the roots of the plant are really twisted
Oh
in
yeah,
there.
and then once a week, the machine will blink green, and all you have to do is make sure that this is full, this is empty, and then you press this button, and it'll take water from this tank, add nutrients to it, fill this tank, and then also drain this tank into this water. And then you can use this water on your potted plants.
Awesome.
And that's essentially it. The light just gets plugged into the top, and you have the Wi-Fi antenna. You have to configure Wi-Fi to it.
Okay.
And then you generate a QR code. And what you do is, so you just put your phone here for like 5 or 10 seconds, and then the machine will grab on to the Wi-Fi.
Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
We're living in the future.
I know.
That's crazy. You put your phone so that the camera is facing down towards the plant, and it is reading the QR code on the phone.
Yeah. And so you'll see this going from blinking purple to solid white. And that means it's connected, it's ready to get started.
Okay.
And then when you start a grow, the app will have instructions on what are the steps that you have to follow and everything. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible.
Finally, we were ready to take our Anabottos home and get them set up to grow for the next 10 to 12 weeks. All right, so I've got the Anabotto in my dining room. It's just like a really big plant pot with a black top to it. And we're going to be growing Girl Scout cookies. And I've screwed that seed pod back into the Anabotto. The lamp is set up. And there's this little light on the front that's blinking purple at me. And if I remember correctly, that means that it's ready to be linked to my Wi-Fi so it can do its thing. So I go into the app and set up my Wi-Fi, and it's given me this QR code, which I'm supposed to hold right underneath the camera on the Anabotto. And hopefully that will link to my Wi-Fi. Alright, so I've got it connected to the Wi-Fi, and I've screwed in the little bit with the seed in the middle, and then I just put in this cartridge that has all the different chemicals in it. I'm following along with the app, so I'm going to put water in the right side once a week, and I'm going to remove it in the dirty water bucket as it fills up the container throughout the week. Okay, so really all I'm doing is I'm the water boy. Alright, we're about 14 days in with the Anabotto, and so far so good. I've actually propagated like 6 spider plants and put them in little pots around the weed plant because there's just so much light. And I don't want to waste it in some weird way. So, when I was in the office, Carl told me that other people sometimes put other plants around it. So maybe they're helping each other grow, I don't know. One thing I will say is keeping the humidifier full is taking a lot. Here in Massachusetts, it's pretty dry. The air feels like you breathe in sandpaper. So that's the only thing that I'm really having to refill. Everything else is going well. It's doing its own thing. The plant is probably about 8 inches tall now. We've got 2 fair size, 2-inch long leaves that look like they will be fan leaves, and we've got 2 other leaves in the middle that are just sort of rounded on the ends. So far so good, little plant. I haven't named the plant yet, but I have named the machine the THC 3P Grow, and she is doing well. After about a month of growth, I checked in with Jen and her roommate to see how their experience had been going so far.
Yeah, I think it's 3 weeks. I feel like we're coming up on our third transfer of water.
All right.
You got a little bit of a head start on us, though.
I did. Well, the day we went to the Anabotto offices, I was just so pumped and so excited for it.
Exactly.
I was like, I'm going to do it right now, this minute, as soon as I got home. But do you know how long it took me to figure out where the cartridge went? I put the cartridge in the left side where you're supposed to use that as like a watering can.
Oh, geez. How did you even do that?
I just stuck it in there and I looked at it and I thought, nothing's happening. I think I've got this wrong. I don't know. And then I emailed him and I asked him about the plug-in system as well. Like I'd plugged something in wrong. All I'd really done is plug the light into the wall. Nothing had been connected to the Anabotto.
All this stuff was very clear.
I know.
This was all very clear.
So let me just preface this with like I'm really technologically impaired. I just about know how to work my iPhone. I can turn on my laptop, and obviously I can record a podcast, but I'm really not very good at technology. So I was like, cool, Anabotto's going to grow weed for me. This is going to be easy.
No wonder you were so jazzed about it.
But as soon as I figured that out, I figured out where the cartridge went, and I figured out how to water it and like what all the little light colors meant. I was off and I was running, and the same day I planted my little seed and I put it with the little dome, and I'm telling you, within 48 hours the plant was pushing that dome off. How quick was it for you guys to see sprout?
I think it was a little longer than 48 hours to maybe hit the top of the dome, but not by much. I mean, it was there were nights I felt like we sat and watched it grow.
Yeah, it was so quick,
so fast out of the gates.
But both of us had this problem where the lights wouldn't turn off at night.
Right.
And that's like, whatever, I don't care. It's not in my bedroom.
I sleep under it.
Does it keep you awake?
Yes. But with, it was like,
I would like wake up in the mornings and I'd go upstairs and I'd like a little dim light, but it's like, pow, good morning.
It's very bright.
But I like it being in my living room space. I don't know.
Yes, I like it as a lamp. I like it as a piece of furniture. Yep. It's really good looking. Yeah. I like that it's got kind of that mid-century modern design to it. Yeah. It works with everything I have, quite frankly.
For sure.
We had a conversation with Carl the other night because the app needed an update, which was somehow beyond us or something like that. And we were talking about that, and he's like, or it doesn't have to be in complete darkness because of the seeds that he gave us.
Yeah, but I asked the same thing. I was like, doesn't this seed need 12 hours or like 8 hours of darkness or something? And he said, no, because it's auto-flowering.
Yes.
So it will automatically flower.
I don't know if you did, but we bought the humidifier that he recommended.
Yeah,
and it automatically turns that on and off, which is wild.
How often do you have to fill that?
All the damn time.
I have to fill it every fucking day.
Yeah, only once a day?
Nah. Every day. It's annoying me. But I'm like, I don't have to do the pH testing and all of these little, there's so much I don't have to do that. I'm not that bothered about that. Have you been doing anything to help yours along? Because secretly me and Jen talked about like doing the Anabotto cup between us and seeing who grows the best weed, because we're doing the same thing. This is a science experiment. This is supposed to be where we want to see if anything changes.
I really like plants, and I have put my little lemon tree next to it as an aspirational icon for what we've named Cookie Monster, and also our plant,
and also adding the spent, as if that's the right word, fluid. When it does a refresh every week, and you take that water out of there and add it to the lemon tree now. We're trying to, put it on steroids.
I love that symbiosis. That's so cool.
Yeah.
They're getting to know each other, those plants. I've put plants around mine as well. I had a spider plant that was just sprouting babies like it was about to die. And I'm like, everything's fine. What are you doing? I'll cut off all your little sprouts, and I put them in little shot glasses full of water, and I put it around the top of the Anabotto, because it's got such a massive light circle that it can do way more than just the weed plant. Like
exactly right.
You can put stuff around it and make it look like a nice little plant corner in your house.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. It could definitely be a focal point for any sort of plant things. In fact, when we had that call with Carl about the app, we did a Zoom, and he showed us a picture of your setup, which is one of the coolest things, is having the camera.
I love that. I love to be able to look at the time lapse and see how much my plant has grown in 3 weeks. It's massive. At first, it just started doing this little wiggle and growing side to side for a few days. And now it's really starting to bloom, and it's pretty sturdy in the stem, and it's got like 20 leaves on it already. But I can look back at that video and see that growth. It's really cool.
I think you're ahead, Brit.
We still have a flop star right now,
but it's fine.
But it moves around, like you said. It kind of like leans to the left and it leans to the right, and the leaves look amazing.
Yeah, they do. They're bigger than I've seen before in other grows. I'll say that. I've seen small 3-week-old plants before, and it might be because we had 3 weeks where we were having this issue where the plant was in light 24 hours a day. Until we sort of, because this is beta testing, we're still figuring out some of the bugs. And, at about week 2.5, we figured out how to turn the light off for 6 hours a night. So it's been growing like just that extra amount, I think. Yeah,
because I was worried about overstressing the plant because our light was on too much. And he was like, what they've done for work is it doesn't hurt the plant for the light to be on that much. They're just trying to save you a little bit of energy. It doesn't benefit it to be on for 24 hours a day. But it doesn't hurt it to be on for 24 hours a day.
It's not yet starting to smell. It's not having any of the other issues that my dog doesn't really care about it. She's sniffed at it and has decided it's not edible, so she's leaving it.
Oh, that's good.
She's wrong, but good choice.
Wait.
Because she goes full force at everything. I was really worried that she would go for all these little plants, but she really doesn't care. Also, I think she's a bit scared of the humidifier, so it works. Yeah.
But isn't it amazing that it's hydroponic completely?
Yeah.
That's a small amount of water.
Yeah.
It feels like I always felt like a hydroponic system would just be like massive.
I think there's a lot of water in there.
But it does feel like there's a lot of water that you put in there every week.
Yeah. And what Carl was saying on the call last week, that you will fill it when it gets big. You'll fill the container on the side like 3 times a week.
Oh yeah.
It will get thirsty. Right now, like you fill it once, but it will get thirsty.
I did take a minute to figure out the names, and I want to read you guys some of the names that didn't make it.
Please do.
So we had to name both on the app, right? You have to pick a name for the machine.
Yep.
You have no choice. You have to pick a name for the plant. And that's fine because you do get attached to both. But I waited for it to be, a good size before I gave it the plant a name. The machine got a name within a few days. The plant took a little bit of growing before I was like, this feels like I can name you now. I think when I have kids, they're going to wait a while before they're named too. So these are the names that did not make it for the machine. Bud Light, which I thought was good. Bud Light. Grobocop. This one was one of my favorites. Cannabidroid.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Harry Pot. And Vincent van Gogh. That only works in an American accent. The Germinator. And the Doobie Mother. Those are the ones that I was given that did not make the cut. And the ones that didn't make the cut for the name of the plant were Ava Green, Tree Diddy, R2 Weed 2.
It would go, good. Yep.
And then the ones that won. My plant name ended up being Obi-Wan Can Grow Me. And my machine name is THC3P Grow.
Those are very good. I was impressed.
Thank you for everybody who added to that. I reached out on Instagram and I got a lot of really good ideas from people. So I do
saw
appreciate
some of those.
Right.
What did you guys go with?
So
we didn't have that kind of help.
I was heavy on the robot name because I like robots, and we went back and forth one night with a whole bunch that just got kind of more and more ridiculous and esoteric. And then I just really like Marvin the robot from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it just stuck. It just seemed like this was a good idea to call it Marvin. It is not a comment on whether or not I think this robot is sad doing this. It's just, it's a good robot name. You know, I was like, that's Marvin.
All right, you got Marvin. I love
and
it.
then, well, so we were looking at different seeds and what the THC and CBD level is, because we're much more like CBD individuals. Like that's kind of more our jam. Like really high THC is just, you know, puts us on.
You don't want to grow something that you don't want to use.
Right. So we were looking at, these are, this is the Girl Scout cookie seed that we have. And he was researching it and he said, this thing's just a cookie monster.
I don't remember it that way at all.
And then he said, I think that's going to be the name.
Cookie Monster.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have Marvin and he's growing the Cookie Monster.
Mm-hmm. It's too adorable.
I love it.
I know. Right. It's very simple.
Nice.
What's really great about growing at home is that you can completely control when you harvest. This gives you a really good time frame of when to harvest, like, because it's tracking everything. They can see pictures. They'll tell you, they'll send you emails about what to expect coming up in the next week. I mean, it's pretty idiot proof. It's pretty great, you know?
It is. I like that interaction. That's really like, I feel like somebody's holding my hand. I like that.
Yeah. And it typically, it feels like such like a daunting task to take something like this on. You'd have a million questions, but you literally have like an app that's right there, like chugging right along. And you know, somebody else is taking a look at it once a day with an image to see how things are going. So we talked about harvesting later because that gives you a higher CBD level the longer you leave a bud.
So the internet said. So I just want to be very clear that we're not scientists.
But this is the thing, like we're novice home growers.
Yes.
And that's exactly who this product is for. It's for like folks that want to just be able to plug something in, fill in the water once or twice a week and let it do its thing, and look up some stuff on Google and then try it this grow and see if that works. And then if that's not such a good smoke for us, you know, we got a couple more months and we'll have another grow and we can harvest it at a different time and try it that way. And this is such a cool product because it's a part of your home now and you can forever like try these different methods out. So yeah, you guys are going to harvest it a bit later. I'm going to try and harvest it a bit earlier. We've been putting our plants around it. I've been singing, dedicating songs to these plants every morning.
Really?
I have. I've been serenading them in the mornings. Yes.
Now I'm feeling bad that it's kind of where I drop my shoes when I walk in the door.
My next door neighbor is fascinated with it. He keeps coming over and being like, so can I just see the plant? And I'm like, yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
He wants one already.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much from go, when we first heard about it from Carl, I think you forwarded me the email or want it. want to do it. I mean,
I had been watching the BU starter, the cannabis startup competition pretty closely, and they were the winners. And so
is that where this is from?
A day after they won,
What, if Anabotto was a winner?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Anabotto is the winner of the BU cannabis startup.
Oh, no kidding.
For 2021.
Oh.
And as soon as they won, I was like, hey, you want to do a show? This is so interesting to me. We've gone from growing it in secret, growing it outside in like forests where you can't get caught. Like, really, this is becoming a part of our everyday lives now. And so are the plants themselves. And so is the art of cultivating cannabis and appreciating cannabis like we do with wine and beer and gin and whatever else we like to intoxicate ourselves with. This is just like normalizing it, taking away the stigma. Like Carl said, mothers want to grow their own plants, but they don't want to have this shady thing in the basement. I was like, of course, you want to do it above ground now. That's the norm.
And I think a lot of people are doing things like that, right? Whether this is just like, another crafty 70s cycle, or if it's like a product of the pandemic, but people are doing things like, sourdough and fermentation, and I made kombucha, and here now I'm making this
growing cannabis.
Now I'm growing cannabis, like, I mean, a lot of people are kind of doing this like homesteading, but inside,
Yeah. And do you know what? I had my neighbor's kids around the other day. They come over sometimes to bake with me and just to play with makeup and whatever they want to do. And they came over and they saw it and they asked what it was. And I said, I'm growing medicinal plants at home. This grows a plant that's medicine.
Yeah.
And they're 6 and 9 years old, and their dad smokes weed. And he later talked to me about like, that was the first time she's like thought about plants as medicine. I mean, we haven't even really talked about medicinal plants before, and now she's really interested in it. What do I say? And I was like, this plant is going to get big, and these kids come around every weekend. So no, we are destigmatizing the plant to the next generation. We're holding these plants in our living spaces, and we're using them as medicine, and we're talking to kids. And these are starting conversations with people that usually wouldn't have conversations about cannabis and how it's grown. But now I've got a chance to talk to a 9-year-old, and her dad's like, please talk to her about this. And I'm like, oh God, what do I do?
But I mean, it could be euthanasia, it could be chamomile. I mean, there's so many medicinal plants out there. This just happens to be another one that was illegal for a long time and is now legal most
places,
nearly
like 2/3 of the US.
Yeah,
it's legal in some form now. When the prices of everything go up, you've got your own little weed plant in your house. Don't worry about it.
And I mean, and it's really neat to watch this
you get
grow.
to grow it. You get to grow it.
I'm definitely going to try and cook with it. Our fearless leader, publisher, Michael Cusack, has a decarboxylator.
Oh, I have one of those. It's made by Ardent, and then you can just cook that into your oil, and then we have an episode on this. It's called Baking Brownies with Brit.
We do. Yeah. I want to try making some gummies or something like that. Like,
nice. I'm going to smoke it. I'm going to roll into a joint and smoke it.
I know. I think I said that to somebody. I'm like, supposedly, if everything goes, well, it's enough for 50 blunts. And they were like, wow. I'm like, yeah, what am I going to do with 50 blunts?
You're going to donate them to Brit. All donations welcome.
Oh.
Be sure to check back in for part 2 of our Anabotto experiment, which will drop in our summer season, when we'll talk about the final few months of growing, the harvesting and drying process, and how Anabotto's flower turned out. Different Leaf will be back next week before we take a little summer break with a very special episode featuring the Queer Cannabis Club. Be sure to follow us on social media at Different Leaf and at Different_Leaf, and I'm on social media at Brit the British. Go to differentleaf.com to find all the issues of our magazine, or you can find the nearest in-person retailer near you that sells Different Leaf. That's differentleaf.com.